The Mongol siege of Baghdad, the day the Islamic Golden Age died. Baghdad, once the crown jewel of the Islamic world, a city that shimmered with gold, wisdom, and power. For centuries, it stood as the beating heart of civilization, where philosophy met science and faith embraced intellect. But in 1258, that light was extinguished. What happened in Baghdad wasn't just a siege. It was an apocalypse cloaked in the shape of men on horseback. Men who came from the east, bringing fire, iron, and a code of conquest. This is the true story of the Mongol siege of Baghdad, the day the Islamic Golden Age came crashing down. To understand what was lost, we must first understand what was. The Islamic Golden Age, spanning from the 8th to the 13th century, was one of the most extraordinary intellectual explosions in human history. Baghdad was its epicenter. Founded in 762 by Caliph al-Mansur of the Abbasid Caliphate, the city became a marvel of urban planning and design. A circular city, fortified and grand, with golden domes rising into the sky and wide avenues filled with scholars, merchants, and mystics. It was here that the Beit al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom, was established, a great library and research institution where Muslim, Christian, Jewish, and Zoroastrian scholars worked side by side. They translated Greek philosophy, Indian mathematics, and Persian astronomy into Arabic. They developed algebra, advanced medicine, chemistry, and optics. Names like Al-Khwarizmi, Avicenna, and Al-Hazen flourished. But as with all golden ages, cracks eventually formed. By the early 13th century, the Abbasid Caliphate was a shadow of its former glory. Politically weakened, militarily thin, and spiritually divided, the empire became increasingly vulnerable. Internal strife plagued the capital. Corruption spread through the court. The caliphs ruled more in name than in strength. Provinces broke off. Rival dynasties grew stronger. Yet Baghdad, with its libraries, mosques, and prestige, still believed itself untouchable. While the Abbasids looked inward, far to the east, a storm was gathering. From the windswept steppes of Mongolia, a horseman named Genghis Khan was uniting the tribes, and his sons and grandsons would continue his legacy with ruthless efficiency. The Mongol Empire didn't conquer, it consumed. Under Genghis Khan, and later his grandson Hulagu Khan, the Mongols built the largest contiguous empire in human history, stretching from Korea to the edge of Europe. Their armies were fast, mobile, and devastatingly strategic. They used spies, terror tactics, and overwhelming force to break kingdoms before a sword was even drawn. They weren't just horsemen. They brought Chinese engineers, Persian siege masters, and even Greek fire. The Mongols understood the power of psychology and often destroyed cities not just to win, but to make sure no one else would resist. Hulagu Khan was given a sacred mission: subdue the Islamic world, starting with Persia and ending with Baghdad. In 1256, Hulagu Khan began his westward campaign. He crushed the assassins of Alamut, eliminated rival empires in Persia, and burned cities to the ground. Everywhere he went, he demanded submission. If a ruler complied, they were spared. If not, their cities were erased from history. As Hulagu advanced, he sent an emissary to Baghdad, demanding that the Caliph, al-Mustasim, surrender and open his gates. But the Caliph made a fatal error. He underestimated the Mongols. He believed his prestige as the leader of the Muslim world would protect him. He ignored warnings from his advisors. And worst of all, he sent Hulagu a mocking response, threatening divine retribution. That sealed Baghdad's fate. In January 1258, Hulagu arrived at the gates of Baghdad with an army estimated at 150,000 men. They were not just Mongols. They were a multi-ethnic coalition of Chinese engineers, Christian auxiliaries, and Turkic warriors. They encircled the city, dammed the Tigris River, and began to build massive siege engines. The siege lasted less than 2 weeks. By February 10, the Mongols breached the walls. What followed was one of the most brutal massacres in recorded history. Baghdad, the city of libraries, poets, and philosophers, was turned into a furnace. Over the next 7 days, the Mongols slaughtered the inhabitants of Baghdad. Estimates range from 200,000 to over 1 million dead. Entire families were wiped out. Children were impaled. Scholars were butchered. The House of Wisdom was destroyed. Ancient texts, some dating back to the Greeks, were hurled into the Tigris River. The river, it was said, ran black with ink and red with blood. Mosques were desecrated. Palaces burned. The caliph himself was captured, mocked, and executed by trampling, wrapped in a carpet so that his royal blood would not touch the ground. Baghdad was left smoldering. Its libraries gone. Its people erased. The fall of Baghdad didn't just destroy a city. It destroyed a civilization's heart. The Islamic Golden Age, already weakened, never recovered. The Mongols, ironically, would later convert to Islam, but the knowledge, the network, and the scholars were lost. It marked the end of Islamic dominance in science and philosophy. The world shifted. Europe would begin its slow rise. The Renaissance would look to the Greek texts, some only preserved because of early Islamic scholars, to rebuild what had been lost in Baghdad. A single week destroyed centuries of progress. Baghdad's story is not just about the Mongols or the caliphs. It's a warning, a chilling reminder of how civilizations fall not only to swords, but to pride, complacency, and the failure to act. The siege of Baghdad was swift, but its consequences echo across history. In its ruins lie lessons about empire, arrogance, and the fragile brilliance of human achievement. The day the Mongols came was the day the world lost Baghdad. And with it, a light went out that has never fully returned. Would you like this turned into a PDF script, voiceover guide, or formatted for video editing timelines? Absolutely. Here's the ending call to action. CTA section you can add directly to the end of the 30-minute narrative. This keeps your tone cinematic and respectful while nudging viewers to engage. Thank you for watching this powerful journey through one of the darkest days in world history. If this story moved you, taught you something new, or made you reflect on how history shapes our world today, we invite you to become part of our growing community. Please hit the like button to support the channel, subscribe for more untold stories and epic historical events, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of our deep dive documentaries. Drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the Siege of Baghdad and what topic you'd like us to explore next. This is Historical Lens and Conquerors, where the past is never forgotten and always remembered. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and keep exploring history.